Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering, where you catch me in the process of making my white armour tutorial. But I'd just like to say a few words to you while I'm getting on with this. Normally, while doing this, I'll either put an ebook on, Horus Heresy at the moment, or I'll listen to podcast style YouTube channels. And since I generally just leave it to whiz through and play what it wants, I sometimes end up down some deep, dark and horrible rabbit holes. Today being no exception, I've been listening to a wargaming YouTuber who shall remain nameless because, quite frankly, this sort of content doesn't want promotion. But I felt I needed to speak about it a little. As some of you will no doubt be aware, I worked for Games Workshop for a little while, towards the end of 2nd edition and into 3rd edition, of Warhammer 40,000 that is. And I was even lucky enough to be a store manager during the initial release of Mordheim. And in my experience, there are two kinds of former Games Workshop employee. There's me, who left of their own volition and went on to live a happy, satisfied life with no venom, no salt, and generally positive outlook on life. And there's this guy, who, according to them, Games Workshop are the worst employer in the world ever. Nobody should ever work for them. They're awful people and should frankly be ashamed of themselves for being a business trying to make money. This is simply not true. Games Workshop may not be the greatest employer in the world. I don't even know who the greatest employer in the world is. But they're certainly not the devils incarnate that this fellow makes them out to be. Games Workshop area managers and trainers do not bowl up at your store every 5 minutes, tell you what an awful human being you are, try to sabotage you in your work in your store, and then with a hop and a skip move on to the next store on their list and to repeat. It simply doesn't happen. When I worked for Games Workshop, the area management team consisted of 3 people. There was the hobby manager, who, as the title gives away, deals with the hobby side of the stores. So essentially what they look like, events you run in the store, gaming in store, etc. The training manager, who deals with all staff training and development. So that includes training the shop assistants and managers, selecting people to move on for what was at the time called squad leader training, which were those sales assistants chosen to become store managers, and recruitment of new staff. Above all of those, we had the sales manager, the area sales manager, and ours was pretty good. In fact, all 3 of them were pretty good. They simply do not do this sabotage of their own staff. If you are the sort of person that this guy is, I am forced to think that you were fired for Games Workshop, not because Games Workshop are terrible, but because you're terrible. And if you were lucky enough to leave Games Workshop without getting fired, definitely jumped before you were pushed. So that's my 2 pennies on that matter. If you would like to hear any stories from the times when I was at Games Workshop, leave comments down below or to start a thread on Waylander's Wandering Discord server, link to which is in the description. Everybody's welcome. We do like a chat. And if you have your own stories as a customer or employee of Games Workshop, or even just general hobby stuff, let's share it with the world, because you know what, guys, it's fun and the world needs a little bit more joy and positivity in it. If you have any bad stories, share them too, and we'll discuss why we think they happened and what we can do to improve the situation in the future. Anyway, that's enough from me. I've been Waylander. You've been fantastic. Thank you for listening to me. I love your faces, and goodbye.